It's so true. I think that was the hardest thing for me when I went through mine, deep depression. I was like, there's nothing wrong with me. That's fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I think we tell ourselves that a lot. We say, I'm fine. Oh, it's just this. Oh, it's just that. And sometimes, it is just something that you're dealing with, but it's okay to go talk to somebody. I've opened up a lot more about it this year, especially after doing the podcast. I'm just sharing all the challenges that I had to go through to feel, back to myself again and get me back. It's just like people think that you have to have a problem to want to go talk to somebody. And I think that's where a lot of people, it does turn into something bigger because, they're just like, oh, I'm fine. It's like, it's okay to not be fine. It's okay.
You're listening to The Creative Impostor, episode number 62. Welcome to The Creative Impostor. I'm Andrea Klunder, and today I am talking with Jeannette Bridoux, Instagram maven, marketing bride, and talking with Jeannette is like an afternoon cup of coffee for my soul. Seriously, I felt so energized when I was recording this interview with her and every time I talk to Jeannette, which is not nearly enough. And editing this episode got me all inspired and excited all over again. She is awesome and you are going to love this interview. We hit a lot of really interesting topics here, including Instagram strategies for creatives and personal branding, including the evolution of her visual style for Marketing Bride, which I think is really unique. So the best thing that you can do right now is click over to Instagram and find Marketing Bride, and that is Jeannette, and you will understand more of what we're talking about in this episode. We also talk about being a digital nomad, the glamorous side and the not so glamorous side. We talk about entrepreneurship, the wonderful things about it and the darker side about it. Jeannette has recently launched a brand new podcast called Entrepreneurs Unveiled, which is all about mental health and entrepreneurship, one of those sort of edgy, shadowy, taboo topics. We talk about replacing shoulds with coulds, comparison, especially as relates to social media, and committing to yourself. If you love The Creative Impostor and you love this conversation, my biggest wish is for you to share this episode with someone else who you think would really love listening to it. You can send a link directly to someone who popped into your mind just now, or you can share it out on social media. Take a screenshot and post it on Instagram, since we're talking all about Instagram today, with the hashtag The Creative Impostor. And that's imposter spelled with O-R at the end. I know, I just had to be difficult. I'm also really excited releasing this episode because if you're listening to it fresh out of the gate, I am on my way to PodFest in Florida, where I will be meeting up with Jeannette. And this year, I am celebrating PodFest with launching a brand new podcast called Podcast Envy. This is a podcast all about the craft of podcasting. And don't worry, The Creative Impostor is not going anywhere. I will still be producing the same amazing, wonderful, inspiring, uplifting, motivating content that I have been producing here. I'm addicted to podcasting. And the longer I produce this show and the more people find it, I get so many questions from other people about how to start their own podcast, or people who are in the midst of starting or want to start and have some confusion or some mysteries around the magic of podcasting. And so I decided what better way than to package all of the advice that I've been giving one-on-one and in my workshops in Chicago into a podcast about podcasting. Podcast Envy is officially launching sometime in early February. I have the first few episodes recorded and edited and mixed, and we're just waiting on a couple more things for it to be officially ready. However, right now, you can get a sneak preview at podcastenvy.com. So if you've been pod curious, go ahead and check it out. All right, that's enough about me. I'm here to share with you Jeannette Bridoux. Here's our conversation. So I thought that I would just start out nice and easy and ask you a 3-part question, which is, who are you? What do you do? And what are you most excited about in your work or life right now?
Oh, that is such a great starting question. I am Jeannette Bridoux. I, for living, do Instagram growth and strategy for brands, help them skyrocket their online presence on Instagram. And what am I really excited about right now? I'm really excited about focusing on 2018 on personal branding.
So I've known you for a little while now, a couple of years, I think, and we originally met through the Chicago Women's Creative Collective. And I think at the time when we first met and you were coming to co-working sessions, you were doing a lot of video editing for clients.
Oh my
Does that sound right?
Yes, I was. So yeah, that was right when I moved to Chicago. Oh yeah, it was like 2 years ago. I was right when I moved to Chicago. And I actually had been living in Arkansas and worked as a video producer, moved to Chicago without a job. So I was doing video editing for freelance video editing. And then, yeah, so that's when I started going to co-working because I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot sit in my apartment and video edit all day. And so, yeah, so then about 3 months after I moved to Chicago, I started working for a startup. And that's how I really started getting into the marketing world because I was working for a startup and also coaching startup to mid to large size businesses on branding and marketing. So when I started out, oh God, I did not know what I was doing at all, but I was kind of thrown to the wolves and thrown in every single position like startups do. And so that's how I learned basically everything about marketing.
And then you eventually, through some twists and turns, I know that you had a blog that you were working on with a really good friend of yours in Chicago. And then you two sort of split ways geographically and business-wise on that. And then you have been developing this new personal brand, which is Marketing Bride, right?
Yes.
First of all, why Instagram as your focus right now? And second of all, where did you come up with this Marketing Bride thing?
Yes. So why Instagram? So Instagram, oh man. So while I was working for the startup, I was doing Instagram and me and another friend of mine were doing Instagram growth basically. But we didn't know at the time that getting 1,500 followers a month was something special. We were just like, oh, this is cool. And then, I still had the blog with Lindsay at the time. And we were like, oh, we're getting so many followers. This is super cool. And, I just thought it was something cool. I didn't know that I could make a business out of it or offer it to brands or that it was something valuable until I was on a mastermind call because I started joining masterminds because I knew I wanted to learn more and just get better at what I was doing. And so I took a mastermind with Ben Clancy, if anybody knows who that is. But I took his mastermind and we were on a group call together and I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about doing this Instagram thing. I can get 1,500 followers for people a month. And everyone on the call was like, oh, wow. Ooh. And I was like, oh, this is a thing. Okay. like literally had no idea. And so, yeah, that's kind of what put me in that direction, and then started getting referrals for growing Instagrams and just started really sharing that on social media. And that's what really attracted clients, just by sharing like results and tips and things that I was doing. And then Marketing Bride. So Marketing Bride also came from working with a mentor. And I was like, no one can spell my name because my name's long. It's like hard to spell. I was like, I cannot have a website that's Jeannette Bridoux. Like no one will literally ever find it. And so I was like, what do I do? And I was literally on Facebook chat one night with one of my mentors and he was like, well, what about, we were just like going back with names. He's like, what about Marketing Bride? I was like, what? That's kind of weird. And then, when you get an idea for something and you slowly fall in love with it after a few days, that was kind of what happened. And so I was like, yeah, I'm going to go with it. And so that's how that happened.
Has your brand name, since you adopted it and since your friend threw it out there, has it taken on any specific meaning for you? And also, can you talk a little bit about the visuals? Because I think even though you said that you really want to spend 2018 working on personal branding, I think that you have really established a visual style for yourself, which makes sense if you're focusing on a visual platform like Instagram. But can you talk a little bit about how you have come up with how to create those visuals and what you feel like they say about you and your brand?
Oh my gosh, these are such good questions. Yes, Marketing Bride definitely took a totally deeper meaning, especially as I started, really focusing on my personal brand, because I was thinking about like brides. Okay, marketing brides, getting married. I was like, what are you getting married to? I was like, you're getting married to like yourself. I know it sounds so weird. Like you're getting married to yourself. You're committing to yourself, right? You're committing to your goals. You're committing to your dreams. You're committing to your purpose. Like it became so much deeper than that. And maybe that's why I fell in love with it in the beginning and just didn't see it. Maybe, I don't know. And then the visuals, oh my gosh, yes. So what I really thought about with personal branding and really marketing, this goes for branding, like your business and, personal branding, is thinking about how you can stand out. Because if you have a product or service that is one of a kind, but if you can't communicate that it's one of a kind, not only through, visuals, but also through the copy that you write, the content that you're putting out, then no one's going to know. So I think that having different visuals is really, really important because it gets people's attention. It's like if I'm scrolling through Instagram and I see a food pic that you eat for the day, am I going to stop and really take a second to go click to your profile and read about you? Likely not. But if you have something, where you're wearing no pants and you're like jumping on a couch with your cell phone, that's kind of interesting, right? So thinking about how you can really attract the right people too, because like, I know that not everyone's going to think that that's cool or interesting, but like the right people will. So I think it's also thinking about, what do people that I want to work with, what's the kind of content that they would like? Because usually it's people like us that we want to work with and that we vibe with that.
Okay, I want to go back to something that you just said about the concept of marketing bride and this idea of committing to yourself. And I think that for a lot of creatives, the word marketing and the idea of marketing is like, ugh. I hate marketing. Like self-promotion feels icky. Marketing feels icky or overwhelming or confusing. But this idea of like marketing as a commitment to yourself and to sharing what you do you have any ideas around this dilemma that a lot of us creatives have with marketing?
Yeah, I think what you're saying totally makes sense. And that's why having someone, to work out your personal branding with is so important, because this is what happens. It's like we have all this brilliant ideas and this uniqueness that we bring to the table. But what we struggle with is putting it online because it feels weird. It doesn't feel natural, where we maybe be out of our element, or when we get to, the Facebook post or the Instagram post, you like kind of blank out, because I totally know what that feels like. And really, it's about having someone to just say, hey, all you need to do is be yourself and be your unique self online. Because I've worked with a lot, like I said, whenever, I worked with a startup, I coached over 100 entrepreneurs on personal branding. And that was like their biggest struggle. It's like when we would have real life conversations, just one-on-one, they would be like, this is what I'm passionate about. This is what I want to share with the world. But when it comes to the online world, that doesn't feel human, right? It doesn't feel like they're having a one-on-one conversation. They feel awkward and weird, and it totally makes sense. It's just different. And so it's like, how can you bring out that uniqueness? How can you really take what, your vision, your purpose, like the thing that you want to share with the world, and put it online? So that's kind of why I really want to focus on it, because I see so many amazing entrepreneurs, just like you're saying, they have such a drive and a passion, but when it comes to putting online, it feels unnatural. And I think it's because it doesn't feel like that one-on-one connection. Like they don't feel like they're speaking to a specific person, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And then what about Instagram itself as a platform? Because I know I've listened to and read and heard and thought a lot about the balance between looking at what else is out there online and social, whether it be Instagram or another platform, and seeing how you can stand out, but also this problem that comes in when we're looking at other people and other brands and we start to compare ourselves or think, wow, this person like Jeannette Bridoux really has all her stuff together and she's got this cool brand and she looks like she's having so much fun and I wish I could be half as successful as Jeannette, you start to have like that comparison that can come in when you're looking at sort of the highlight reel of what other people are posting. What do you advise for when that sort of comparison trap springs in?
That's something I struggled with, in the beginning, whenever I was like, oh my gosh, whenever I was starting out, it was like, because I didn't know what my brand was going to represent. So I think it really starts with purpose. Like that's literally what it starts with. It's like, what is your purpose? Like, what do you have to share with the world that you believe can really make a difference in someone's life? And I feel like once you tap into that, everything else just follows. But I totally get look, because that's what I did. It's like, that's what I did for a really long time, was look at other people, because I didn't know what I really wanted to share online. I wasn't, super passionate about one thing or the other. I was just kind of sharing marketing advice. And when I was looking at everybody else, that's when I lost my uniqueness. That's when I lost my focus and my creativity. So when we look and compare all the time, it's not a healthy thing. So not scrolling on Instagram. It's like, it's good to get inspiration for structure, right? It's like, oh, she posts this type of content, but not replicating the content, right? It's like, oh, she'll have a swipe up when she does a webinar. I think it's the structure is important, but the actual how they do it, like their visuals, how they show up, like that's what makes you unique. And you don't need to really look to anybody else for that. You need to let the natural you come out. And honestly, how I did that was just spent way less time scrolling and way more time alone, being my creative self, writing out all my ideas.
Can I put you on the spot and ask you what your purpose is for your brand and your business?
Absolutely. I love that. So my purpose is, this is something that, and like I said, like when I started out, I didn't have all this figured out. So it's not that you have to have it all figured out. I think brand evolution is really important, because as you start out, you get better, your focus changes, your pivot, whether it's a business or your personal brand, like you pivot towards the direction, right? Like when I started out, a lot of times I would talk about Instagram. Now I'm way more focused on that purpose because my purpose is to help other people discover theirs, right? I want more people looking inner instead of outer for answers, because that's what helped me really step into the comfortability of like being online as myself, is when I got comfortable with myself. And that sounds like not a straight up answer. It's like meditate and really figure out who you are and what you want to do, and then show up online, versus showing up online something you're not really happy about, like you don't feel connected with, right? You're just like, well, I'm just posting to post. I was totally there and just doing it. And I was like, this sucks. Mm-hmm. I was like, I don't want to show up every day just to show up every day. I want to figure out what my real message, my real impact is going to be. Then I can show up and it doesn't feel like it's a chore or something I have to do. Like it's just something so natural, because I believe in my purpose and the impact I can create for people so much that I just do it. So like, that's what did it for me.
I think it's this process, as you said, sort of this evolution, personal evolution and brand evolution at the same time. I mean, I think personal development is ongoing. So it's not like you have to have all your stuff figured out and know the secret of life and everything before you start. But having at least the awareness, at least a basic awareness of yourself and what motivates you and what your vision is or what you're trying to do, and starting there and then seeing how it shifts and change while you continue to do the personal work. And I think also you post about a lot of things that you're doing in your personal life, like journaling and meditation and travel and yoga. You just had a video about how you thought you hated yoga and you have a newfound love for it, which I saw. What have been some of the best practices that you have done personally for this discovering who you are and like personal growth and personal awareness?
Really, the daily meditation has been the best absolute thing, 100%. Meditation for me has been awesome. Also, paying attention and being really conscious about how you use your brain and your brain energy. I don't even know if brain energy is a technical term. I don't think it is, but how you use your brain energy and what you're exposing your mind to. I think that's so freaking important. Like I said, with the scrolling, like I would just catch myself scrolling And I was like, what am I doing? I'm just mindlessly looking at social media. I could be spending this time reading a book. I could be spending this time, watching Holistic Fashionista, because I'm obsessed with her videos about business astrology. I was like, I'm just wasting so much of my important brain energy. And I feel like we just take all this random crap in. And so what I started doing is focusing more on how I spent that time instead of scrolling or doing anything, who I'm paying attention to, who I'm listening to. Like, am I listening to someone who's actually that I connect with and that like say, wow, like she really helped me with this? Or am I just watching some random webinar because it hit in my email? So being more like focused and really, really conscious of the stuff I'm listening to, I think that was really, really helpful. Like both of those things.
It's like conscious media consumption. And so much content is free right now, right? So there's this free course and this free webinar and this free cheat sheet and this free download and this free podcast and this free audio. And it's like, oh, I got to consume all the things. I got to learn about Facebook ads and I got to learn about Instagram marketing and I got to learn about this and I got to get this and I got to get this. And it just becomes this willy-nilly, like whatever gets served up to you that you hover over or click on or download, then suddenly all the social platforms are like, oh, you must want more and more and more of this. And you're like, ah.
No, yeah. And that was so me before. But all it really does is distract you from what you, like I said, your unique purpose. Because it's like we all have something unique and wonderful to bring to the world and that we were put on this earth for that nobody else can do. So if we're trying to just like take everybody else's stuff and using all our time doing all of that and not focusing on, okay, what I really need to learn is how to get more traffic to the blog content that I write every day, because this is what I love. And I think that if more people see this, I can change the world or I can do X for them, whatever it is that you believe that you can help people with.
So I want to shift gears a little bit and talk to you. First of all, where in the world are you right now?
I'm actually in Arkansas. So I'm originally from Arkansas, like I mentioned earlier. My aunt and uncle's 40th anniversary is tomorrow. So we're going to celebrate with the fam.
And the reason I asked you that question is because you have been a digital nomad for a little while as of late. First of all, tell me what that means in case digital nomad is like this weird phrase that means nothing to our listeners. And second of all, why did you choose to go that route?
A digital nomad is just basically, I work from my laptop anywhere.
Which sounds like a dream come true to so many people. They're like, I want that. Can I do that?
Yeah, right? And yeah, so let's definitely talk about that. So, because it's been 11 months now, and I was in Chicago at my apartment. And so that was last February. Last February is when I became, almost a year. Oh my goodness. So last February, I left my Chicago apartment and I threw away like 8 bags of stuff. I gave away like all my stuff. And I was like, I'm going to become a digital nomad because all I do is sit in my apartment and work on my laptop and it freaking sucks. And I was like, why? If I can work from anywhere, then what am I doing? And that's when I was still starting my business. So I was still working full time and starting my business, trying to get clients, trying to figure it all out. How am I going to do this? And last year, I remember I flew from Chicago to Orlando. And this is so crazy that I just realized this, is that was February of last year, the first week of February. And now the new year, I'm flying to Orlando in February of the second week of February. That's so crazy. Literally, I'll be in the same place, but
you better go get like an astrological chart or something and figure out what is happening.
That is weird. But I think what's cool, and this is crazy, I'm just realizing this, is that last year I was going to attend a conference, and this time I'm going to speak at a conference. So there's a lot of change that happened in the last year. But anyway, so Orlando, and then I've been everywhere. So I went, to California, Miami, a lot of times to New York because that's where my best friend lives. I got to go to Amsterdam and Germany and London. And yeah, it was just really fun. I think what people don't realize is that you spend a lot of your time, if you do it like I did. So what I did was like, I would go to a place for like maximum 7 days. So I was traveling all the time. And when you do it like that, it's just like, you're not as focused on whatever it is you're working on, because you're constantly going to meet new people. Like, don't get me wrong, the connections and the people I met are invaluable. Absolutely. But it's definitely takes you away from like focus on your work, because you're in that place for such a short time. You're like, oh, this is the only time I have to go meet with this person. I have to go do this. So I would say it kept me away from really focusing on my business, even though I was just starting it out. So I don't know. I think it's all about the journey though. And I had a great, amazing experience with it. But if, this year, if I decide to continue it and not, get an apartment, which I haven't had in 11 months. So that's actually kind of weird to think about, but I would do it to where I spend at least a month in a place so I don't feel so rushed.
One thing that I think is really important to a sustainable creative work and lifestyle is community and having community support and community building. How have you been using technology and social media to build a sense of community, either online or in real life?
And that's such an amazing, great question, because that was something around like October. So I wasn't really homesick, but I did get, friend sick because I didn't have that community of friends that, living in a apartment life, I guess you could say. You can go to meetups, you can go meet with your friends every weekend, you can go to your friend's house and cook a dinner. Like, that wasn't really there. So I definitely started missing that in October. And I was like, man, I just really miss that community. What can I do for this community? And really what brought me back, I guess, would be like events. So in November, I went on this I got to speak at this conference that was on a cruise ship, and I connected with the people there. Like, it was insane. Like, we became family like instantly. And that just like reminded me how much I wanted that community back. And I still love all of those people. Like, we stay in touch online. I'm going to see them in like this February. We'll all be at the same conference. Like, I love those people. And that doesn't happen every day. So it was just like, I think it was such a blessing for that, because I was feeling so lonely and didn't feel like I had that community. But really, like, finding the community that you can connect with online, like Facebook groups, was really awesome, because I could, search for traveling women or, spiritual women, because also at the time I was transitioning from, working at a startup job for 2 years, and the people I was following then, like my mentors and everything, were very masculine. They were all men. Like, the startup world is very men everything. And I didn't realize how out of touch I'd gotten with my feminine self. So that was like a really big thing for me. I was like, whoa, like, I need to have girlfriends that I can have like hearts to hearts to and talk about the universe and life. Like, I was like, all this has just been missing. And so that's totally like what I dove into and started like connecting with just amazing women online who are like, doing their business, but also changing like the world. And so that was just like all online, like just really seeking it out myself.
So talking about like this feminine leadership and making sure that you have a balance of this feminine and masculine energy, I think as an entrepreneur, we tend to think of entrepreneurship as more of a male dominated thing and as more of a masculine thing. And I know that one area that you've been really interested in as of late is the topic of mental health and entrepreneurship. And in fact, I believe you've just started a podcast on that theme, right?
Yes, the Entrepreneurs Unveiled. Oh my goodness. So yeah, I'm so happy to start that. I released the first episode January 1st, 2018. So resolution knocked off, I guess. But yeah, so I interview different entrepreneurs that have been through mental health issues, have been on their own journey with mental health, as I went through like a really deep depression 4 years ago when I was 21 in college. And so that was something that I never really felt comfortable with sharing. I knew one day, I was like, one day I'll do it. One day I'll do it. One day I'll do it. And 4 years later, still hadn't done anything. And what kept happening was like suicides. So someone committed suicide that I knew from my hometown. A week later, someone committed suicide that I knew from my hometown. And I was like, this is so crazy. Like, I have to like do something. Like, I was like, I can't just wait around. And I just woke up one morning. I was like, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start a podcast. I'm gonna interview people about it. And I chose like entrepreneurs, like specifically, because I feel like entrepreneurs, just like you were saying, like, especially in the tech and marketing area, we're in this masculine, type energy that isn't really as open to talking about feelings and emotions. And, that's the space that I was in. And not once did I ever see that, not once did I feel like I could come out and talk about those things until I just started, doing it. And then I realized, I was like, oh, there's other women like me out there that like aren't so, this is the way business goes. This is this. And that's all they do. And that's their life. And I was realizing that I needed new mentors. And it wasn't that the other mentors were bad. It's just like I was becoming a different person. So I needed to connect on a different level with the mentors I was working with. So that's how the podcast started. I'm finding new amazing people to interview all the time, people that have not only went through, mental health issues, but also that are making change for it and have like online resources for people. And it's really just about breaking it down and making it more accepted to everybody, because everyone's still kind of like, oh, mental health. Like, yeah, it's like, why can't we just have a conversation about it? It doesn't have to be like, oh my gosh, a huge elephant just walked in. This is awkward and weird. It's like, I think it's very healthy and normal to talk about emotions.
I think it's mental health and mental health challenges are a super taboo topic in our culture in general, and especially in the entrepreneur space, because you have a lot of pressure on you to seem capable and to seem like you have all of your stuff together. And whether that's, leading a startup that's worth X amount of money and has investors, or whether that's creating a personal brand and like marketing your lifestyle business online. And even in women-centric spaces, even in some women like networking or entrepreneurial things, it's like you feel like if somebody sees a crack in that Instagram self that you put out there, that they won't necessarily trust you, or they won't think that you are the right person to hire for somebody or the right person to recommend because, oh, well, I hear that she's been having some mental health issues or like, I don't know. I feel like there's sometimes that like competitiveness where it's like, you feel like you have to maintain a certain type of appearance or you need to uphold a certain level of something. And I find it more and more valuable when I see leaders and entrepreneurs and podcasters and content creators who are not necessarily oversharing and like airing all their personal business, but who are authentic and legit when they're like, I messed up, or I'm feeling really uncomfortable about this or that, or I need to take a break from producing content because I need to take care of myself and do some self-care. And also, I think it's becoming a little bit more acceptable to seek out help with mental health. I don't know. I mean, I was somebody who I never really used to get depression. First of all, I never really felt depressed that I know of growing up, like in school and as a child. And I didn't get it when people would say, oh, I'm depressed, I can't do anything. I'm like, what do you mean? Stop being depressed. Like, what do you mean? Go out and have some coffee or, like cheer up or watch something fun. Like I didn't comprehend it. And even when I would have a challenging time with something, I talk about like I had a quarter life crisis in college where it was like a big identity crisis and I didn't know what I wanted to do with myself, and my classes and my program was making me upset and I was crying in the bathroom. I still wouldn't have categorized that as depression. I would have categorized that as I was having a really hard time and I was trying to figure some stuff out. But then like when I closed my first business, my yoga studio business, and I was broke and I had no energy and I wasn't super healthy and I didn't know what to do with myself, that was like legit. I don't want to get out of bed. I can't possibly talk to another human right now, depression. And that was the first time that I was like, oh, this is like a real thing. And it's almost like you don't want to admit that something is really wrong that you need help with.
Oh, yes. Yes. Thank you so much for sharing that too, because it's so true. I think that was the hardest thing for me when I went through mine, deep depression. I was like, there's nothing wrong with me. That's fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I think we tell ourselves that a lot. We say, I'm fine. Oh, it's just this. Oh, it's just that. And sometimes, it is just something that you're dealing with, but it's okay to go talk to somebody. It's not like therapists and going to talk to somebody is only for depressed people. It's like, no, it's like people go through stuff and Sometimes there's not that person in your life that, you're comfortable with, that you can open up to about, or that they'll understand. I've been through depression, but that doesn't mean that just because I've been through depression that I'm going to understand someone else's depression, because it's so different. Like it's so different. And I've opened up a lot more about it this year, especially after doing the podcast. I record videos about specific topics about shame and different stuff, but I never try to claim that, I'm trying to diagnose anyone or that I'm some expert or something. It's like, I'm just sharing literally all the challenges that I had to go through to feel, back to myself again and get me back. And it's like, that's all I want to share. So yeah, I think it's just like people think that you have to have a problem to want to go talk to somebody. Like you have to have this huge problem. And I think that's where a lot of people, it does turn into something bigger because, they're just like, oh, I'm fine. It's like, it's okay to not be fine. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay to not be fine. We need I need that posted somewhere really huge in my home office.
Yeah, and I think just because someone has a successful career, or just because someone, even like me, I talk about all these things that I've overcome, doesn't mean I don't still struggle. Doesn't mean I have just all got it figured out now. It's like I still have days where it freaking sucks, or I'm super complaining about everything. But no one's perfect. Absolutely no one is perfect. So
how do you deal with, first of all, do you ever experience imposter syndrome or feeling like you don't measure up or you're in over your head, or that people are going to find out that, oh my God, you're speaking at this podcasting conference coming up in February and people are going to be like, who the heck is this girl? For you? And what do you do when you start to feel that way to pull yourself out of it and keep moving forward?
That is so funny because I totally did think that. I was like, wait, I am going to a podcasting conference. I was like, I just got a freaking podcast. I was like, what is happening? But I think I felt it a little bit when I started doing the Instagram stuff, and I would look around because I know really good Instagram experts. So when I look at me and I look at them, I'm like, damn, they're, they've been at it for 10 years. It's just different, right? They're just at a different level. And so I look up to them damn, they are so legit. And then I kind of just made myself small. I think whenever I was first starting out doing it, because it was something new. And then I think you're always going to kind of feel that way, especially looking up to people you respect and who are really good at what you may be stepping into. But at the same time, it's you're still the one showing up every day. And you just have to remind yourself that. Like I said, meditation's really helped. If I have something that's bothering me, or I can't get something out of my head, I'll keep telling myself oh, why are you doing this? I'm like, whoa, what's going on? I literally a mental internal check-in with myself. What are we doing? What's wrong with this? Let's work on this. It's all internal stuff. So I just try to look inward rather than looking for something on the outside to fix it. And also, I think I feel way more imposter syndrome with the mental health stuff, honestly, because it's totally something brand new. I am completely out of my comfort zone. I am not comfortable talking about really deep things that happen to me. And this is what helps, is that I know how important it is. And I know how important it is for other people to hear it, even though someone might say, I'll just go ahead and share this. I got a comment on one of my videos because I put up my videos on LinkedIn. And, I put content on LinkedIn regularly, but I just started kind of stepping into more of sharing mental health awareness. And someone had commented something they just took what I said really out of context and just kind of threw it back. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm kind of used to that by now, especially showing up online all the time, people saying comments. And it's just you just feel kind of am I doing the right thing? Like I said, especially when you're starting out doing something, but you just have to, like I said, it all comes back to your purpose. I don't feel called to share my story for no reason. I know it's important. I know people need to hear it. I know I can help somebody. And that's what's more important to me than me feeling my ego got hurt in some way, So it's just refocusing on what's important and if it feels right for you.
What's your number one tip for somebody who's just starting out on Instagram for personal branding or marketing?
Oh,
top tip. Number one.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Get your 9 posts up as fast as possible because it's super weird if you don't have at least 9 posts. I see like people with 6 posts and it's like, why don't you have your grid filled up? Second thing is if it's your personal brand, unless you're doing something like the Naked Professor, he doesn't show his face. He only shows his like naked body from behind. Unless you're doing something like that, show your face. So have like a really nice high quality image for your profile picture on Instagram so people can see you're your personal brand. They need to connect with you. And then optimize your bio and tell them who you are and what you do. So like for me, like I have multiple things in there because I identify with, being a mental health awareness advocate and also, Instagram growth expert, those kind of things that I have in there, and also have like some sort of call to action, like click the link in bio for X, whatever, like if you have a freebie, have some link in the bio. So that's another tip. And use hashtags 100 million% and show your face. Like I think that is the number one thing that I see a lot of people with personal brands do is that they don't show their face enough. And with a personal brand, you are the face. So you need to show your face more.
Any advice or words of wisdom that you have for someone who is starting off on a new creative entrepreneurial path?
I would say if you just keep telling yourself you can't do things, that's what happened with me. I was like, oh, I can't do this. Oh, I can't do that. Mm-hmm. Just stop it. Like stop limiting and like cut that person, your inner critic or your inner whatever you want to call it, out of your life and be more open to saying, okay, I could do this. I could do that. And being more open to coulds instead of shoulds. I hate shoulding. Shoulding does not make any sense because the world isn't supposed to be a certain way. It is a certain way, just it is. So let it be and just keep doing what you feel called to do, if that made any sense at all.
It did. Okay, last question. Is there anything else that you want to say to our listeners or that you want to share that we didn't quite cover?
I think we covered this, that you are absolutely here for a purpose, and that purpose can change over time. You can evolve, you can change. It's totally okay. I would just, whatever you want to do and that you're passionate about, just go do it and let yourself learn along the way and enjoy it and not criticize yourself so hard or bash yourself so much, and just like I said, let things be and just focus on the impact that you want to make in the world.
Jeannette Bridoux, marketing bride, Instagram maven, genius, genius, genius. I loved talking with Jeannette, if you couldn't tell, and I can't wait to meet up with her this week at PodFest in Orlando. Perhaps what I love most about Jeannette is that she's super smart in terms of thinking about how we're feeding and using our brain energy, where we're putting our focus and attention. And believe me, Jeannette is somebody who has so many interests, but I get the feeling from the amount of growth and success I've seen from her over the last couple of years that it's all intentional. And most importantly, she's having fun while she's doing it. She takes her work and her purpose really seriously, but her brand is so fun. You can find links to all things Jeannette Bridoux, that's Marketing Bride on Instagram, at thecreativeimpostor.com/062. And hey, don't forget, if you've been pod curious, i.e. interested in starting your own podcast, and you want to make sure that your podcast is the envy of everyone else, head on over to podcastenvy.com and check out my new show. If you love The Creative Impostor, I invite you to subscribe and share this episode with a friend. And if you need more creative friends and inspiration, come on over to the Creative Impostor Facebook group. And I would love to support you over there on your creative journey. This episode was mixed by Edwin Ruiz of Mondo Machine. Our theme music is by Jovia Armstrong. I thank you so much for listening. And this week, I am wishing you all the opportunities to commit to yourself, your goals, your dreams, and your purpose.